High school football season is here, and Sports on Tap has you covered all season long with in-depth coverage and analysis. You won't want to miss our special football shows each Monday of the high school season from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Catch recaps of all the games, interviews with local players and coaches, and hear if your team is playing in the game of the week. For the best high school football coverage, turn to Sports on Tap. Every Monday from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. The weather may be getting colder, but it's always ice cream weather. Join Sports on Tap for live broadcast at Z's Cream and Bean on the first Thursday of every month from 7:30 to 9 p.m. Come see the faces behind the voices you hear on the podcast and hear from local athletes and coaches about their teams, seasons, and conferences. Enjoy delicious ice cream and milkshakes and join in on the fun at Z's Cream and Bean, 2706 Boston Road in Hinckley. The Sports on Tap podcast, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio, you're listening to Sports on Tap. Here are your hosts, Rob Troutman, Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, and Sean Duffy.
And welcome to Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. I'm Rob Troutman. We have Josh Jeffy here.
Hello, Rob.
And,
Hello, Rob. Excuse me.
And this is bringing back all kinds of memories. As we always say when it's me and Josh, it's usually our pirate radio days in a Studio
right.
J slash
our old
office.
Our old times where me and you used to do it in the Orange Studio.
Yeah, the Orange Studio.
Internet radio.
That's right. Well, we're at Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio, 2706 Boston Road. And if you can, get out here. It's absolutely beautiful outside. Perfect night for some ice cream. And if you want the best ice cream in town, Z's Cream and Bean has it. They also have milkshakes. Josh, going with the strawberry milkshake already tonight.
Yeah, it's very good. As usual, I've been going a little strawberry. Past couple of times I've been here. Usually it was vanilla, but I thought I'd switch it up a little bit. And it's fresh and delicious.
I usually go with the chocolate milkshake, or, you know, we'll go with a twist in a waffle cone. And the ice cream is so smooth and delicious. That's probably what I'll be having later this evening.
Your post-show activity.
That's right.
Good.
You always got to have the post-show activity here at Z's Cream and Bean.
Indeed.
And they also have TVs going, so, you know, if you're afraid you're going to miss the Browns preseason game or any sporting event or anything, you know, they would put it up for you.
You know what, Rob? I'm laughing because you mentioned the Browns preseason game.
Yeah.
I actually completely forgot that was tonight.
Did you?
Yes.
The only reason I didn't is because I knew a few people that were asked to go today, you know, and they were going to head down tonight.
I guess that's,
It's kind of a big preseason game, I feel like.
No, I mean, it's really not. I mean, I guess that's
it's not?
That's my expectations for the Browns this season. You know, I'm not expecting a lot. And then, you know, when you have the Cavs winning a championship, there we go. You can kind of hear me a little bit now. Cavs winning a championship in June, and then you have the Indians, who we'll talk about here in a little bit, playing so well, playing for the playoffs. You know, the Browns are third fiddle right now in my sports world. And I'm not expecting a lot when it comes to them. So I think we should talk about something that we are expecting a lot of, and that's Cleveland Indians.
I was going to say, you know, we should be talking about the Indians right now, especially with how they're playing. They're in first place, making that playoff push. 4.5 games up on the Detroit Tigers, 7.5 up on the Kansas City Royals, and the White Sox and Twins, you know, nowhere near the lead. The White Sox 13 games back, and the Minnesota Twins 27.5 games back.
All right, they've only won 49 games this year, haven't they?
Yeah, and I think 40 of those are against the Indians. But
it sure seems
no,
that
you know
way,
what?
for sure.
But the Indians did turn around this last week.
Yeah, it was a nice sweep.
sweeping.
They needed it. Some of the games were kind of hairy, a little close, too close for comfort. But hey, when you're in, you know, when you're getting towards the end of the season, you're gonna have to like squeeze out some games. And the way that last week went for the Indians, it was good to come back home and get a sweep with the Twins for sure.
Yeah, and hopefully the fans will start going to these games, especially as it gets closer to the playoffs. I mean, right now, 4.5 games. Still plenty of time, though. You know, that's the scary part. You know, there's still, I believe, like 30 games left, 25 to 30 games left. And, we're up 4.5 games, which is a nice little comfort zone there, but you can't get too comfortable, especially with the Tigers in back. You look at some of the Indians' statistics. Obviously, 76-56 is their record. Really, 20 games over 500. They're fifth in batting average and sixth in runs, sixth in earned run average for the pitchers, and home runs allowed, they're 18th. So a lot of the times with this team, overall, it's consistent through offense, and the pitching staff went through a few bumps, but that's how they're going to have to learn. You lose some games. I'd rather them lose right now. They still have a 4.5 game lead. Everybody was kind of like, uh-oh, when's this going to turn? But the offense has now struggled a little bit, and they're figuring out ways to win, especially against a tough Twins team, which we've struggled against this year. So, you're going to go through some bumps in the road, but with 25 to 30 games left, they just have to figure it out. Now Josh Tomlin is going to miss his next scheduled start. What did you think about Josh Tomlin missing that start?
Well, I think that was the right thing to do. I mean, he's lost his last 6 decisions, and he's got an ERA in those last 6 starts over 11. And he's given up the most home runs in the major leagues. And, Terry Francona has been known to kind of stick with his players through thick and thin. And he stuck with Tomlin a lot longer than a lot of people thought he should. And I think right now he's just made the right move. And I think Tomlin himself, even after his last start, said, if whatever they need to do, whatever Tito needs to do, I will support that and be a good team player. And that's kind of the good locker room atmosphere that the Indians have. Someone's really excited for some ice cream. So the Indians decided to skip Tomlin's next start and see where that goes. Maybe that'll kind of calm him down a little bit. But you know what? If you look at Josh Tomlin, he struggled the last month or month and a half of the season, but he was one of the key components in the beginning of the season that led to the Indians building this lead in the division and having a successful season thus far. So, and he's a good locker room guy, obviously. And it's tough that he's playing at a really bad level right now, but hopefully he can get things squared away and he'll be able to use them in the playoffs.
Well, I mean, we can't forget what he did for this team early on in the season. I mean, he really did a nice job, getting the starts, going deep into starts and winning games early on in the season. And,
when the rest of the staff was a little shaky to start.
Exactly. So, I mean, he's done a really nice job. Yeah, he's going through a bumpy ride. And do you know what I respect more is the fact that he said, he doesn't blame the Indians for not giving him a start, that he has had his chance, in the second half of the season. He's just not getting it done. Now, will they bring him out of the bullpen and maybe pitch him? We don't know, but it's not necessarily a bad option to have. And Josh is all over social media. He does a heck of a job, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're just taking a little selfie action of the two of us. We're going to be posting that on our Facebook page, facebook.com/sportsontap.
That's right. And we're all over Twitter as well, at SOT Podcast. You can find us, and if you want to join the conversation. But so Josh Tomlin, got taken off. He's going to miss his next start, and he took it graciously and did a really nice job. I think that's the way it needs to be, and we'll see what happens with these guys when he has to pitch next. But looking at the team now, you look at the Indians coming up with CoCo Crisp. I was almost shocked that the Indians made a trade for CoCo Crisp, who he's been what, 240,
234, I believe.
Yeah, but 11 home runs and maybe 30-something RBIs. I mean, that's a huge pickup for the Indians, who you look at Almonte, he's actually not going to
he's not eligible for the playoffs,
postseason, which I didn't even know. I thought he took his suspension, and that was it. Now he's not going to be eligible for postseason, so him and Brantley are out.
I believe
I think that's why CoCo Crisp became
available.
Available.
I think that's part of the CBA, the collective bargaining agreement, that if any player who's suspended during the season for PEDs is not eligible for postseason play.
Yeah, and that's I was surprised. I did not know that, but you know what? It's It's a huge pickup to get Crisp. He's only batting .234, like we said, but you look at everything else he does. He's a solid defensive player, a little bit weaker arm, but when he was in Cleveland, he was successful. He's got some speed still.
It's one of those things where Indians made a move not for him to be an impact everyday player. He's the type of player that veteran guy and can come in on a spot or in spot duty and maybe make a play for you. That's what you're hoping for. You're not losing anything by having him. You're hopefully gaining something.
And how about the season that Mike Napoli has had? You know, it's only a one-year contract, so he's looking and he said he wants to stay in Cleveland. Should the Indians – I mean, I think that's the big bet you were looking for, really. Nobody knew, what he was going to be able to do.
For sure.
But, what he's done, I mean, 260, he's put up almost 30 home runs and plenty of RBIs. If you're the Cleveland Indians, would you sign Mike Napoli to maybe a 2 or 3 year deal?
Oh, you have to. I mean, you have to. Not only does he provide you with at least how many years, Rob, on this show have we discussed about having a right-handed power hitter that is at least a threat to knock it out of the ballpark? And that's what Napoli is. And he's come back and had a very good year power-wise. But where I think he's more important is we talked about Tomlin, the locker room guy. Napoli is a key component of that locker room. I mean, you see all the shirts out there, party at Napoli's. I mean, it reminds me of how Jason Giambi was a few years ago, or even Trot Nixon in 2007. It's an old veteran guy came here and was kind of the gel in the locker room. And those are the kind of guys that you want to have around. Now, in instances like Giambi and Trot Nixon, they were one-year guys because they were at the end of their careers. They couldn't really provide much. Napoli still has some left in the tank, and that's apparent with almost 30 home runs this season. So you have to do. You got to bring them back, especially if they make a deep postseason run. Listen, the Dolans have there's a bad narrative around the team, around ownership, that they will not pay. Even though they did pay Grady Sizemore $9 million that 1 year, but we won't talk about that.
That was something you want to forget.
But in this instance, yes, they're going to have to do. Now, will you have to maybe pay 10, maybe 9, 10, 11 million dollars a year? Hey, you might have to do that, but I don't know. It's not my money to spend, so I can't say do it or don't do it. But it would be a wise move, in my opinion, for them to do it.
Well, I think this year the Indians really hit on, like Rajai Davis. He's batting .260 and has been an absolute huge pickup for them. In the past, they've tried this, and it just hasn't worked out. Like you said, Trot Nixon hasn't worked out, but it also has worked out this year, and that's why I think the Indians, have more of a complete lineup, too. You look at Rajai Davis. Carlos Santana is hitting a lot better for his average, hitting home runs and not feeling the pressure, I feel like, to produce. So, I think those veteran guys, they finally hit on, Napoli and Davis. And the pitching staff has been pretty solid, a very young pitching staff. But now you got Andrew Miller back there where we've seen before. He can give you give you a 6-out save. Mm-hmm. And, I mean, he's absolutely unhittable. I mean, guys aren't even close.
Yeah, as far as my memory goes, I don't remember such a dominating pitcher. The last time I remember is like Randy Johnson. Remember in like 95 when he faced the Indians, how just dominating he was. I mean, that was a little different because he was a starter, but it's almost like not to this level yet, but like a Mariano Rivera type, where when he comes in the game, it's done.
Yeah.
He's that dominant.
Well, I think his slider has so much movement on it. It starts off in the strike zone and the bottom drops out, or it goes into hitters and they have no chance because they're already committed.
Yep.
His fastball's at least 95 to 97, and he's got just so much movement on his off-speed pitches. There's really no chance for hitters to even come close to hitting him. So that was a nice pickup. We'll see what happens with some of the players that the Indians, traded away there. But, overall, this roster is pretty impressive. And, they're looking to make that push. Now that they, like we said, they've struggled a little bit. they've gotten past that. They swept the Twins. Now, what are they going to do coming up? Because they do have a hard road. I believe we play the Miami Marlins.
Yeah, they have
a
a weekend series with Miami, and then they do host Houston for 4 starting on Monday. And then they have some winnable games. They go to at Minnesota for a 3-game series. They go then to Chicago for a 4-game series. And then the final week or so of the season, it's a on the road, at home. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm looking. I didn't scroll down enough. But towards the middle of December or September, jeez, Lisa, I'm having troubles like Sean today.
That's all right.
But then middle of September, they host back-to-back a home series against Detroit and then a home series against KC. And then they have 3. The final homestand of the year here in Cleveland is 3 against the White Sox. And then they finish the season with a 4-game trip in Detroit and a 3-game series in Kansas City.
I'll tell you what, that is absolutely going to be unbelievable. And I can't wait for it. This is playoff baseball we're getting to, folks. You got to get down and support this team. The last 25 to 30 games left, and they're 4.5 games up, which is a nice little cushion. But you know, when you have 25 to 30 games, anything can happen. So you got to get out and make some noise for these guys, because especially when they're in the playoffs, it's going to be a lot of fun. I mean, there's nothing like October baseball.
You know what? I'm not worried about the crowds coming out during the playoffs. I think Cleveland
the playoffs will come, for sure.
Cleveland will represent. I think even this weekend when the weather's nice, you'll see good crowds there. Just during the week, I mean, you're looking at some of the attendance for the past few games. When we see here, let me get to it. You know, you've had, on the average, about 11,700 people there the last 3 games. In the home games before that was a weekend series against the Blue Jays where they had 33,600, 26,700, and then they finished off a Sunday at 27,000. So 27,700, yeah, thereabouts. So, I mean, those are good numbers there.
Very good numbers.
So
I mean, on the weekends, like you said, and I had a chance to go to an Indians-Tigers game that was, I believe, July 4th.
Oh,
and,
nice.
you
that
know,
was the,
it was absolutely packed.
The rain delay, though, right?
Yeah. It was packed, but it was a lot of fun and unbelievable atmosphere, really, when you look at it. So that's what we're hoping to get again. And we have, the class of 75 is here. Cindy Gapinski is joining us. And, hey, Jeff Trotman is here. We might talk a little fantasy football later. We'll see maybe if he's around to get his thoughts on his picks. But right now we're talking Indians baseball. Do you have any thoughts on the Indians? They're running away from the mics. That's all right. We're up here at Z's Cream and Bean, and people are starting to pack it a little more after work, coming up for some ice cream. But like I said, Josh, let's see what happens with this team. Do you have any thoughts about this Cleveland team making their playoff push? You know, they've had a roller coaster of a ride. You got to stick with them.
Of course, yeah, you do have to stick with them. And listening to sports talk radio after an Indians loss, I mean, especially after last week, there was a lot of people freaking out. Baseball is so different than any other sport out there, and it's kind of ebbs and flows, and you just kind of got to go with it.
Yeah.
This team, though, the Indians always seem to find a way, even when they're down in the dumps. I think they're going to be fine as long as they continue to play, solid baseball, keep hitting the ball solidly, and hopefully the starting pitching will continue to stay strong for the most part.
Are you nervous about the Detroit Tigers?
No, not worried. I'm not worried about Tigers. I have the complete confidence the Indians will win the Central Division.
Wow. I know Sean's at home saying you better worry about the Detroit Tigers, but no, we're not worried about the Tigers right now.
Not at all.
All right, we're Sports on Tap, part of the NEO Sports Insiders Network. Coming up, we're going to still talk a little Cleveland Browns football as it's preseason time.
Finally, over after today.
Yeah, I know. Regular season, 10 days away. We're also going to have Colette Fine here a little bit later. She's from Team Strongsville, as we talk about our game of the week a little bit in high school football. Just go over that briefly as we will be in Strongsville tomorrow. Hudson versus Strongsville. It's Sports on Tap's game of the week. We'll talk about that all coming up. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio. We'll be right back.